Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you joined us today.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's get into it. Hello, folks. Here we are back again.
Yes, we're excited to be with you again and share a little bit more new content that we have been discussing behind the scenes because that's what we do.
I think it's funny. We always say, we're back. Yes, we're coming back every week. And it is actually fun, just to press record and have these conversations. And we really hope that people that are listening are really, getting something from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like as much as it is for the audience, it's for us as well. There's a lot of learning behind the scenes, as well as I have called it therapy. Believe it or not, it keeps us on our toes. That's what it does.
I think it's funny that you say that because, as everybody who's been listening knows that we're recent empty nesters. And what people don't know is, you really got to relearn people. We've been married a long time, and I feel like we're relearning each other and not re-engaging. We've always been engaged, but it's like a new phase.
Yeah.
And so, I would agree. This feels a little bit like therapy, much needed long-term therapy.
Well, and I also think that some of the subjects that we discuss help adjust some of the ways that we move today, because we're different humans 25 years later, right? So I think that this in particular can be very helpful for us. I'm really eager to talk about this conversation and see where it helps us behind the scenes as well.
Right. Well, I'm excited that the next 25 years will be better than the first 25.
Hey, I love that.
And I've said it. I'll say it here on the podcast. I'm committed to be here long term and make sure that we grow and develop. And so, we got to put some of the old things down and behind us and pick up and embrace some of the new things. So,
absolutely.
As you guys listen and follow along with us, we hope that you're getting some of those things from us, some of our lived experiences. And
yeah.
They help you in your journey as they are helping us in this new phase of our journey.
Absolutely. So today we are going to talk about something that I feel creeps up into our lives in a way that we least expected. We don't see it coming. Sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And we're going to term it money leaks. And this isn't necessarily a new term. We did not coin this phrase. But when you consider your money leaking in places that you didn't know it was happening until something larger occurred, that is what we're discussing here. And so I just think that it's so important that we talk about this piece because a lot of people find themselves in a situation where money has leaked and they were unaware of it while it was going on.
While we were talking about this topic, I was like, man, money leaks. What is that money leak? And I had to ask myself that. And it's what's so funny is as you were talking, as you were just going about, going through explaining, why we're talking about this or what it is, it hit me in this moment.
In this moment right now.
I was like, whoa, this is the example for us.
I was today years old when...
So, everybody used to have cable and, you pay for your cable TV and then you would pay for internet and, it was all good. And then we went to the subscription-based services, like, the Netflix, but you had cable and Netflix. Mm-hmm. And then it started shifting where you started going away from cable because cable used to be expensive.
Right.
I remember we would get our cable bill. I'd be like, why is this bill so high? $120 for cable and the internet. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then the age of Hulu and YouTube TV.
Apple TV.
And then one day you said to me, you were like, why do we have all these subscriptions?
Yes. Oh, I saw a new one recently, Paramount.
Right. And I was like, that's a money leak.
Yes.
I was like, Jesus. I let it happen to me.
That's right. We are not immune. It's like that creep. And we think like, okay, $10 here,
Yeah,
$7 here.
$5 here, four ninety
It's not
nine.
gonna make a difference. But when you add them up,
Right.
oh my gosh.
I started thinking about it. I was like, man, I got Hulu, I got Apple TV, I got Netflix, I got Max, I got Paramount,
Mm,
Peacock.
right.
I was like, hold on, hold on. I might as well go back to having cable.
Right.
Pay
Right.
one flat fee and get everything. And so I was like, oh man, I got a money leak myself. So I was like, I gotta go back and start to remedy this, like
Yeah.
fix this.
And I think that we don't notice it until we add it all up and see what the cost is per month, right? And and
Right.
and that's what I had done with a couple of clients who when I asked them, "How much do you think all of your subscriptions add up to?" And they said, "Oh, maybe $100." And they weren't certain. And when we added it all up, it was $200.
Oh, oh my God.
Because they have little children and that's a whole different set of subscriptions to keep them entertained in addition to what you just described for many adults or young people. And so I feel like that is something that we don't tend to do, which is to add it
Right.
up, you know.
And I think when you reach a point where you maybe have gotten out of some debt or you reached an income mile marker, you may not pay as close attention. And I think this is funny. I remember a long time ago, I had a buddy who I went to high school with, and, we played football together. And, he was very fortunate. He made it to the league. And I remember a conversation that he was in the NFL and he said something about his savings account. And he was like, "Oh, as long as it's about right here in this area, I don't worry about it." I was like, "Huh? What do you mean?" And it was like some obscene number that he said, like, as long as it's around here, I'm okay. I was like, that's no way to handle or manage your money and track it. And it wasn't until like some things started to shift. He was getting traded. He was trying to get, some signing bonuses. He was like, wait a minute, I may need to crack down. And
Mhm.
that's a money leak right there. Is like, well, as long as my account is within this range, you know what that number is in your head. And if it drops below that, then you start to get worried. That's not really the approach that you should take.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about finances and, trying to change your generational tree, I really do think that the devil is in the details.
Yeah.
And it's these money leaks that can be a bunch of little things, those small details, if left alone and ignored, can become very big problems.
Ooh, so you remember when we had a leak in our home? I feel like we were in the basement. One of us was in the basement and we saw something on the ceiling that clued us in that something was wrong. And then we had to search out what was really going on. Do you remember that?
Of course, of course, because water scares me
Yes.
in a house, and I remember distinctly there was an issue with like the ice maker, and you have the water line from the ice maker, and so we were trying to get the ice maker in our refrigerator repaired, and me being handy Chris, I was like, well, I can do such and such, and I pulled the fridge out, and I had like turned the water off or something, and one of the water lines I thought I had like put it in a bucket and let it, like, if there was any spillage it would like leak into that bucket. And I think that somehow it had fallen out of the bucket and was like sitting on the wood floor, and it was a slow drip because we were in the process of getting some stuff done. And I must have come down and was in the basement. We got a little workout room in our basement, and I was down there. I was like, wait a minute, looked at the ceiling. I was like, wait a minute, it's wet right there.
It's a spot. It looked discolored.
Yes,
It wasn't white. It was off.
yes. And I went and I touched it, and it was soft.
Ooh, that
And
part.
remember, when I touched it, I poked through the ceiling. I was
Yeah.
like, oh no.
This is a problem.
And I ran upstairs and I pulled the refrigerator all the way out, and water had been leaking for days. And the floor was buckled under the fridge. I was like, Oh no. It was like my worst nightmare. And so it was this little small drip, drip, drip.
Mhm.
And that little drip became a big issue.
Right. Because we had to fix the floor. First of all, fix the leak, make certain that that didn't continue to occur, fix the floor, and fix the ceiling. I mean, it
It
becomes this.
became a major issue because the flooring couldn't be matched up.
Exactly.
And because it couldn't be matched up, we wound up ripping all the flooring out on the entire first floor of the house and putting all new
Wood
wood
flooring.
flooring in. I was like, "Oh my god, this I'm even
You
I
got
can't
PTSD. PTSD.
I can't even talk straight right
Alert,
now.
alert, alert. I mean, because it's devastating. Water and not in the right places is really not a good thing. And that was a $10,000. I mean, that was literally a lot of money. So when we think about in the moment, a little bit of water doesn't seem like a big deal, but over time, over hours and then days and potentially weeks, that can do lots of harm, lots of damage, and cost lots of money. And I think that's what we have to consider is, subscriptions. Are they, one, is it healthy? Are we watching too much TV? Right. Two, are we watching all of this stuff? Because honestly, it's
Right.
probably difficult to watch 10 different subscription channels all at one time. And I know people who just rotate. Oh, this 3 months I'm gonna do this one. This 3 months, that could be an approach as well.
And I think I was just like getting it was like one show or one series.
Yeah,
I watch TV on demand,
right. And
so it's like
then
I want to watch this. Oh, it's on this station. Or I want to watch that. Oh, it's on that station.
and then you got to cut it off, and that's
Right.
the problem because they don't get cut off. And I think that's the thing is we tend to not realize how it is building up, and that's not the only area. Subscriptions is just one of the areas, but it's an easy one that
Yep.
most people can identify with. And I would even say Amazon is a money leak, right? Because when things get delivered to the house, it's just so easy. It's like the other day, you said we need some trash bags, and I was like, all right, here we go, let's get the trash bags. Oh, but I want to go get this too, and so I got this other thing, and oh, I want to get this too. And so we know when packages are being delivered constantly to the house, sometimes there's this blurred line between, do we need it, or is this thing that we're ordering a want?
Oh, look, I'm about to hit people where it hurt right now.
Don't wait a minute, hold on, I'm part of people.
Well, no, it's not going to, this isn't you.
Okay.
This isn't you, but there's a lot of people who are listening. When they hear this, they're going to be like, no. Boy, that's Starbucks.
Yeah, that's a
Some
leak.
people need to go every day. Some people go twice a day. And look, people, I'm guilty. I go to Starbucks. I might go, I don't even go every week. But I actually went to Starbucks recently and I saw the drink I wanted. It was on the board and it had a price on it. And I was like, man, okay, well, I'm willing to pay that. Order my drink. And I got to the window and they said a different price. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's not what it said on the board. How much is that drink? Because the price on the board was different than the price she quoted me at the window.
Mm-hmm.
And she was reaching the threshold of what I was willing to pay
Mm-hmm.
for a Starbucks drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm more mindful of this than some people. They're like, oh, whatever. I want this. They may not ask how much it is. You want it this many pumps of that, and they add 50 cents for that. And next thing you know, you got a single drink and it's $10.
Literally.
$10 drink.
Mm-hmm.
You do that a few times a week. You do that every month. That's some easy leakage, but
Yeah. You know what? That's a really good point because I did this with our daughter just today when she was talking about, yeah, I got to get my dining out under control. I said, let's talk about that. How much does it cost you when you go get something to eat or order in or whatever? And she told me. And so I was like, okay. And then how many times a week are you doing that? And then she said, this many times. And I said, in a month, how much is that? And so we just walked through that process. The same goes for Starbucks. People have had whole books about this. Your future is built up in your latte. You know what I'm saying? And I enjoy a good latte, but it's true when you That $4 drink that used to be $4 like 5 years ago, has now
I don't even
become
know if they have a you got to get a mini,
right.
a short.
You right, but I remember when it was $4. That's when I got hip. That was a while ago. Anyway, but now it's like $5, $6, and $7, and you do that every single day. Oh my goodness! Now we're
Oof.
talking hundreds of dollars a month, and if that is not the definition of a money leak, I don't know what is.
So we're talking about what some of the leaks are, but let's talk about how you try and like fix some of the leaks.
Hmm.
So what are some things that people can do to try and fix some of those leaks? So let's talk about that. Then we'll talk about some of the consequences of not working on those leaks. So
Yeah.
what can you do to if you identify a leak, what can you do to try and fix that leak?
Well, in identifying it, I call it a reality check. Just that whole exercise I did of, assessing how much am I actually spending so we can see how much it's building up to. And then when you think about it on a monthly basis, maybe it's $200. And then on an annual basis, now we're talking $2,400, and what can you do with that, right? So we begin
Right.
begin to ask ourselves those questions. But I think one of the easiest things to do is just this, how often are we doing it and how much is it costing,
So
right?
so simply you're saying track your spending.
Yes, but even if people don't go as far as what we'll talk about in a minute, like you can just say, how much is it right now? And how often am I doing it? So if I'm going 4 times a week, is it possible for you to go 2 times a week? And
Right,
that doesn't even
right.
require writing something down or getting anything, detailed. It can just simply be changing the frequency. Or how much am I spending? Is it possible to do it differently? So, one of the things that you and I have done in order to cut down on coffee outside of the home is we actually got a Keurig. And over time, that's going to save us a whole lot because we'll pay $20 for a pack of 20 Keurig cups. And so our drinks essentially are around $1, depending on what we put into it. And so that is, cutting our costs, dramatically from and getting like something. For me, I love a chai latte, and it's the same cost as going to, I mean, it's the same drink as going to Starbucks, but I'm doing it for $1 instead of
Yeah, I
5.
thought it was interesting because we've always had like coffee pots because I've been a coffee drinker and you really haven't been a coffee drinker. But when I was looking for a new kind of coffee setup, I was like, well, I got to get something that does more than just coffee, and so I bought a nicer Keurig on sale. People, Bed Bath and Beyond was going on, was going out of
Hmm.
business, got me
Hmm.
a steep discount,
There we go.
and so and we set up like a little drink station. I ain't call it coffee station anymore. So, and I did realize I was like, man, we're not even buying like the chai mix. We were just buying K cups, and I saw you like using them, and I started. I wasn't going to Starbucks because we were really doing our own little thing at home, and that was a game changer because when we talk about plugging money leaks and how we can do it. I think there's a lot of consequence that people don't realize
Yeah.
if you don't like try and put some things in place because you literally will look up and you have eaten or drank or Netflixed
Yeah. Your
your money
future. Yes.
right just down the toilet, and you
Yes.
look back like you said, if it's $200 a month and it's $2,400 a year, you look back like, wait a minute, I just drank $2,400 in Starbucks and it's just gone.
Right. So really, it's all about, was it worth it?
Oh
Right.
my
Was
God, you jumping ahead,
I
like
am, but that's the truth. And then I think the other thing is a strategy for how people can do it is to, for subscriptions. I know people who they use up the one subscription, they watch all or binge watch their shows, and then they let that one go for a couple months
right.
and maybe move on to another one. And I think that is so smart. I mean, it means that you may not get a chance to see everything when everyone else does, but you're still watching it, right? And so I think that can save you a lot of time because then you're not wasting one of those subscriptions unnecessarily and you're actually kind of being focused. And so that could be a strategy to change that up as well.
Look, you got me over here looking at my phone like I'm about to log into Peacock. Like, cancel.
Because I have not watched Peacock. I tried to watch something on there and I just haven't. So I haven't gone in there. And we have
Right.
other stuff we're looking at now.
Right. Well, I'm gonna cancel something.
Hey, I love
At the
it.
end of this, I'm going in. I'm canceling a subscription so I don't create additional leakage.
Let's plug the money leak. So,
Right.
what do you feel like is so hard about, plugging them, for instance? I mean, do you like you made it seem easy right there and you were just like, all right, I think I'm just about to let go of that one. But why do you feel like it's so hard for people to maybe make those decisions?
Because I think it comes back to the classic, like, I work,
Yeah.
I make money, I can do what I want, or I deserve it. And those are all the lies we tell ourselves. Like, I can do what I want to do, I can afford this. And some of those may be true. But I was talking to a friend of ours today, and we were just talking about, like, how you make decisions, how you go about making choices. And he was sharing a story with me about, one of their kids was talking about they have a car that their parents bought them when they graduated, and that son said he was going to drive that car until the wheels fell off.
That sound good.
It does. But now the son is doing good, got a, job and, making some good money, and saw the new Tesla truck
Uh-oh.
that'll be coming out and was like, I think I want to get this.
Mm-hmm.
But, had some conversations with, his partner, and he was reminded that, hey, you said you were going to drive this car until the wheels came off. Why are you changing up now? I was like, look at these young people.
That's accountability.
Absolutely.
That is
Absolutely.
accountability. And I think that's something that, honestly, if it is a trait you see in someone you're dating or in your spouse, be thankful because accountability is huge in helping to plug some
That's
leaks.
right.
I mean, if you got somebody who is not afraid to be honest with you or to remind you of something you said, or who's going to hold you to the standard that you set for yourself, that's a good person. That's a person we want to
That's
stick
right. Look, I'm giving credit to my buddy out there. You know who you are.
with.
So, but that's why sometimes you said what makes it hard.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to be accountable.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a single person who may not be in a relationship right now, or you may not be married, and you don't want people to tell you what to do.
Woo.
Nobody wants to have anybody tell them what to do because I can do what I want. And we all need to be accountable to someone, and we all need to be able to accept, that accountability and just be like, hey, if I was missing it, maybe I was thinking about it wrong, or maybe I should, consider doing something different. So accountability is a great thing, especially when you apply it.
Yeah, I'm going to spill my own beans and just be honest. There was a couple of years ago, I was really getting into clothes and I was spending more money on
Come on,
clothes.
tell your truth.
I'm gonna tell my truth because this is real talk. This is us being honest and open. And the truth is that I wasn't aware fully of how much of the overall clothing spend was mine, right? And I was just
74%.
ah!
Oh, did I say that? Oh, my
You know
bad.
what? I'm gonna need you to erase that.
My bad.
We about to cut that out. But
My brother just trying to get a hoodie over here.
Right. So the truth is, yes, a sister was spending all of the clothing budget. Okay. And I found myself being mentally selfish, like, oh, he don't need nothing over there. Like, or the
I'm out
kids.
cutting grass on the weekends trying to make me some extra funds.
Now you just being extra. Okay. Now you doing too much over there.
All right. Continue.
But I remember being intentional because I'm the coach and I wanted to be accountable. And I said, husband, you know, I really feel like I need a boundary here, something healthy, And so we talked about like numbers at that time. This was like a couple of years ago. And one of the things that is challenging is I don't spend a lot of money on one item. It'll just be 5 items that add up to, somebody's pair of Jordans, right? And so
Hold on, hold on, hold on. Why are you using that as an
it's
example?
just everybody knows how much Jordans cost, okay? So I'm not like an expensive shopper
Right,
necessarily,
right.
but I liked things and I was getting into things. And so we just needed to put a healthy boundary. And I spoke up. Like you didn't even say anything to me. I spoke up and that was helpful. I think I'm probably in that space again where I'm going to have that conversation. But I think that is like there's something really I think mature when we recognize that something may be off or it's not helping us reach one of our goals or I really think we need to have this conversation. It's not diminishing or and no one you don't have to feel like someone's controlling you, but I think that it's wise to actually engage your partner in the process of helping you to be accountable when you are the culprit in a money leak. And I think that is huge, especially when the dollars are big. We're not talking, I mean, I wouldn't even consider a leak that's $10 a month, right? Like that's not huge. We're talking the repetitive nature of $10 every day that adds up.
Yeah, but I think it could be $10 in one area,
Sure.
and then it's $10 in another
There
area,
you go.
then it's $20 in another area. It's like we started with the subscriptions. It's $5.99. Then Netflix comes and says, "Oh, we're raising it by $2," and it goes from 15 to 17.99, and now you've got that. Then I think it just adds up.
It does.
And if, like you said, if you go shopping, oh, I'm only spending $25 on something small here, and I'm spending $50 over there, or I'm spending $30 here. Next thing you know, that's $100. Plus, you got $100 in Starbucks, and you've got that. Now you're getting to $300, $400, $500 a month, and that's thousands of dollars per year. So it
Absolutely.
does change the dynamics of things. So you really do have to begin to think about it. And for me, like you talked about how you came and said you needed to, put limits in place. And I think a healthy thing that we did, which was good for me, was I said, look, I'm probably old school. I'm unlike most people because I typically have and use cash.
Mhm.
And that just makes me move differently because one, I just like having my cash and I hold on to it. I'll be like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Or, nah, I'm not going to buy this because I don't want to depart with my cash. So that helps me make different decisions. And we made it such that I was like, look, I need to have play money. And so we just factored into the budget. It was like Chris's play money. And it didn't have any name other than that. And I would just go get cash, take it out, and I just kind of walk around with it in my pocket. Or
Mhm.
if I didn't spend it, I would just, tuck it away. Then when I decided that there was something big that I wanted, because I'll be honest, when I buy something, I tend to spend, you know, significantly more on something than you would.
Oh, I'm so glad you were honest,
I,
husband.
I'm being honest and transparent here. But then, I'll break out like $500. You'd be like, well, where you get this money from? And I'd be like, well, I just been sitting on it, from my play money. But I want to do this, so then I just spend the money, and I don't have any regret. I don't feel bad. It's not a budget buster because I've just been sitting on my cash.
And I think cash is finite. We tend to spend more with our debit cards, our credit cards, etc., because we don't necessarily feel it. We don't really know where it's coming from if you don't have a budget. But cash is finite. When it's gone,
It
right?
doesn't, it doesn't, the debit card and credit cards, they don't register the same.
Yes, there isn't the same emotional response when you
Yep.
spend. And you will tend to spend. There are studies that show that you will tend to spend with plastic, debit or credit cards. you'll tend to spend 12 to 18% more. You will get that dessert when you're dining out. You will get that skirt to go with the blouse, or you will buy somebody else a gift. And those are the things that occur when you're not as connected to the dollars in your account.
Yes, and I tend to be like, okay, well, how much do I have? I pull my cash out, I count it. I'd be like, well, hold on, I don't have enough for all of this. So immediately, my decision making starts to be different.
Mhm.
And then if it's something I really want, I start to say, okay, well, is it in the budget? Do
Mhm.
we have an extra cushion, or can I bridge the gap between what I have in cash?
Yeah.
And so it really does just make my whole decision making process slightly different, which I think for us has been helpful because, we talk about, yin and yang. You can't have two people mad at the same time. You can't have two people out of control spending at the same time. In a relationship, somebody needs to be the opposite because
Mhm.
that's where you get balance.
Mhm.
And I think that helps us. Like if you feel like you're a little out there with shopping, here it is. I'm over here counting my counting my coin. Like,
Mhm.
well, I can't be out of control. I got to stay within the limit.
And I think the other challenge that can come up when we're not as connected to our spending is simply that you could very well be spending dollars that are meant for a bill, some of your goals, your savings, or a specific purpose. And when you don't have those boundaries up and you're not aware and conscious of it, you can, thwart those plans. And that's problematic in the end. So there's one thing to say, all right, we've got a little cushion or we've designated dollars for it. And then there's another thing when you're seeing it creep up, and that's the leak, when it's above and beyond what you've already set because it's leaking into something. Either something is going to get delayed in payment, or something else won't happen, or you won't get to save the money. There are consequences to allowing the leaks to occur. And so, that's something to really be conscious of as well, because we really don't want to miss out on things because we haven't plugged the leaks themselves.
Right. What was the saying? It's the small foxes that spoil the vine.
Yeah.
And it's those little things that can be a little thing, but then it has this much bigger implication and ramification,
Mhm.
And so it's like you really do have to think about those things and be mindful of it because it can seem like something small, but then it turns into something much bigger. And if you're not, getting on the same page, like you were just talking about, then next thing you know, you look up and you're like, man, how did I get out here? You started in the shallow because it seemed like it was something so small.
Mm.
Then next thing you know, you're in 10 feet of water. You like, man, I'm barely able to tread. I can't touch the bottom anymore.
That's good. That's good. And one of the things that I think is really, really, really helpful, and I really want to get practical because that's just me, is to literally track your spending. So you won't even know and be aware if you have a money leak if you don't actually track your expenses. And so it's actually, easier nowadays. There are many, many different applications that will allow you to do that. I love Quicken. We personally use Quicken, but Mint and Every Dollar and Monarch Money, and there's just envelopes. There's just so many.
Got
Um,
guac now.
yeah, there's Guac. There's tons of apps that will help you to track your expenses. And I think that if you don't, at least give yourself the opportunity to try. You'll never know if it's going to be really helpful. I've seen people really get super excited about it, and then I see people who do it for a while and then they fizzle out. And I just say, commit to it for 30 days and see if you like it. And you can try another app if you want to, or you can decide that that's not the route for you. But find a way to track it and plug the leaks that you're not comfortable with or that are keeping you from the goals that you have, because that is an easy way to see where the leaks are occurring and to essentially have a financial reality check. And that's really a great place to start, if you will, if you really want to see the whole big picture.
Yeah, and I think as you talk about that, another area that I think about is making sure that you and your partner are both involved. And there are ways like you and I think we have good communication skills with one another, and it's not always the case with relationships, or especially when you start talking about money, and if people have separate accounts versus, one joint unified account, but you have to make sure that you get your partner involved in the process and decide how you guys are going to do it. Are we going to track? Are we going to check in? Are we going to use cash? And then when you establish that, then create that accountability with one another to make sure that you stay on track with how you are going about doing this.
Yeah. And usually there's one person in the coupled relationship that is more geared towards actually doing the tracking. Usually there's somebody who's like, oh, I need to know. I want to see it. I want to understand all the numbers. And so that person is already geared to make sure that the money is being taken care of and they're looking at the details and all of that. And so have a conversation about who that is so that you guys are on the same page about who does it and how often so that you know exactly what's going on. And then I say part of your money meeting is just to ensure that you guys discuss how the money was spent. Like when you look at it again on a routine basis, that you are discussing how it has been spent. Are you good? Is it in alignment with your budget, in alignment with your goals? Just reconnect on it. And it doesn't have to be this big, long event. It can just be a 10 or 15-minute conversation where you regroup on a weekly basis.
Look, I'm talking to the fellas and the ladies now. Just because one person might be better at it doesn't mean that they're in control. It is still a partnership. And lean to the strengths of each partner. So if one person is better at tracking, let that person do it. It doesn't mean that they're in control of the budget, because this is a mutually beneficial agreement and arrangement. So, put your pride aside and make sure you on target with what matters.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. We're a team where it concerns getting rid of these money leaks. So, husband, how are we making it worth it today?
well, I think the first thing that you have to do is decide what's most important. Are all these little things, the subscriptions and the Starbucks and all these little money leaks, is that the most important thing, or is it this longer term, bigger term goal? Now, you can do all of that other stuff, but I think, like anything, you got to do it in moderation. And so for me, the way you make it worth it is decide what's most important. Because, they say where your heart is, there's your money will be also. So when you decide what's most important, that's where you're going to put your money.
Yeah, there you go. And my one little tidbit on making it worth it is look at how much and how often. When you see a leak, when you identify it, get clarity on how much am I spending each time this occurs and how often am I doing it. And can you change those two factors? Is it possible to change those two factors? And that is the easiest path to quickly plugging a leak. You can do that immediately. You can do it today. You can do it this week. And it doesn't require anything else from you. And so it's always worth it to plug a leak, because we definitely want to preserve, all of the ways in which you utilize your money to your best benefit, not just because it is the status quo. It's what we've always done. It's okay to make a change and to make sure that you're getting where you need to be financially.
Look, plug those leaks, plug those holes, keep your ships afloat on this road to debt freedom.
Yes, and don't damage the floor while the water's leaking.
Oh my God, stop it.
That's the big thing.
Stop it. My PTSD is coming back about that floor. Just stop it. So until next time, folks.
We're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up for our email on forbetterandworth.com.
Till next time, we're out of here.